We believe health is the foundation that unlocks freedom. The freedom to live fully, to be an asset and not a burden, and to chase what truly matters. Through daily practices and proven frameworks, we are here to help you build deep health, find lasting peace, and live with your heart on fire. Welcome to the chase. Hello and welcome back to the show. Hello, Ben. I almost said how you doing, but I know how you're doing because you got a little cold. How you feeling beyond that?
Besides that, pretty solid. But yeah, I got this thing that's attacking the world and the universe, and I'm not immune to any of it, and my family and everyone else is battling.
All right, so we feel for you. We are joined by our friend Jameson Price. Jameson, how the heck are you?
I'm good, man. I am sick a lot of times, so I am not sick now, which is odd.
That's great.
Yeah.
So,
just the way you want to open up a show about chasing excellence. How sick are we all? Yeah.
All right. So I'm excited to have this conversation, but I am also not excited to have this conversation. What I mean by that, I'm excited to talk to you guys about something that's happened recently. I'm going to go ahead and say that I wish we didn't have to have this conversation, but the conversation is going to be around why the two of you independently have decided to, your gyms, I should say, specifically, have decided to de-affiliate from CrossFit HQ. So we're going to talk about a little bit of the whys, the whats, the hows. And I haven't had a chance to talk to either one of you about this. And actually, I wanted to talk to the two of you about something entirely different. But within a few days of each other, a couple of weeks ago, you both texted me that you'd made this decision. So I was like, well, okay, now I have to talk to you about this. So I'm excited to have this conversation because I really do want to dig into the reasons why. To start, can you both, just so everybody is on the same page, when did the gyms open? How long have you been affiliated with CrossFit? Just give us a little bit of the table stakes here so that we know what we're talking about as we talk about this. Jameson, you're our guest. You go first.
cool. Yeah, we have been an affiliate. The affiliate that I've owned for the last little over 7 years, has been an affiliate actually for over a decade. We just took it over about 7 years ago. And so, yeah, we've been in the affiliation process for the last decade. I went and got my level 1 in 2016 and was just working out at the affiliate really at that time, and then started coaching after that. So, yeah, so been in the space for a decade now, very much invested into the space for the last 7 years or so.
Got it. And Ben, remind us how long the gym has been open there.
So this is our 18th year. So affiliated in 2007. It's been, for kind of my everything. This is a strange, weird conversation that I did not foresee coming, given the history and involvement and how passionate and how much of a disciple I am of the majority of what CrossFit stands for.
I want to get into some of the nuance there. But first, as I was preparing for this conversation, I remembered that a little over a year ago, not that much more than a year ago, it was actually our first episode of 2024, Ben. The CrossFit HQ had just announced that they were going to up the affiliate fees. And so we took that as an opportunity to just talk about where your head was at as it relates to the CrossFit affiliate space. You were pretty bullish on CrossFit at that point. You commended them for some bold decisions that they were making, including to the degree that you were happy with it, the increase of your affiliate fee. But I think it was this episode that you said it, you said you wanted CrossFit HQ to be strong. You wanted them to win, right? And so I just want to start there, and I'll start with you, Ben. Jameson, I'm going to ask you the same basic question, which is, walk me through the last year. What's happened in your mind over the last 9 to 12 months that took us from a place where you were at least cautiously optimistic about the future of CrossFit to where we are talking today about the gym no longer being affiliated with CrossFit HQ?
Yeah, this is completely separate from the moves that CrossFit was making, which I do think were the right moves in terms of the ability to bolster and buoy themselves financially to become a more feasible and sound company.
Yep.
I think they made a lot of really smart moves in terms of what they were doing on the game side of things, in terms of cutting some events off their books, in terms of the still call it regionals, semifinals, whatever you want. Increasing the number of people that competed in quarterfinals, basically extending the open to make it, that's their big, huge moneymaker, is this very scalable online competition. They did that even a bigger way this year, and raising affiliate fees and requiring owners to have a level 2.
Mm-hmm.
Still a fan of all those things. This decision is separate from those. It really has next to zero to do with any of those. I think your words of cautious optimism and this wanting CrossFit to win had not changed throughout the entirety of the year. It was really other events that triggered this thought process and the ultimate decision.
Jameson, would you say you're pretty aligned with that general time frame?
Yeah, totally. I would say that the shift for me, even just in sentiment internally, that was a very private thing for a while. It's probably been in the last 18 months or so. Mm-hmm. I started asking myself some questions, and maybe this is jumping ahead, but started approaching some of the dogmatic thinking that I had adopted, maybe even upwards of like 2 years ago. And so just started asking some questions that I had not yet asked. So while I'd say it's probably been simmering for the last couple of years and has kind of been bolstered by some personal experiences that I've had, that for sure the last calendar year specifically has definitely thrown some fuel on the fire in terms of like what got me to the decision sooner rather than later, or kind of what pushed it over the edge.
For both of you, it doesn't feel like this was a slow boil where, right, like last February, you were like, this might happen. I'm thinking about this. I'm going to start having some conversation. And instead it might seem like this was a bit of we've got to make this decision now. Is that a fair assessment, or was it more of a slow boil?
So in terms of the heat being turned up, if you will, mm-hmm. I would say that 2020 was the beginning of a question mark. Mm-hmm. And that was when leadership was not acting the way that we wanted to. If you remember, a lot of athletes were boycotting the games. People were threatening to de-affiliate. We threatened to de-affiliate because leadership was not acting in accordance with our values and the way that we represented ourselves, the way we wanted our leaders in the space to represent us. You know, there were some changes, some incredibly drastic and massive changes. Yep. So it went to I wouldn't say it was a slow boil. I wouldn't say it was the heat was turned up. The heat was turned up, but it was on. So at least like there was this kind of like the foundation had been shook a little bit. So people's antennas have been up a little bit, but it was really, I mean, let's just call it what it was. It was the events at last year's games with the death of the athlete, Lazar, was a thing that was for me, was the triggering event. Now that was, I'm just going to kind of lay this out a little bit so we can kind of backtrack. That was the triggering event. And when that happened, I was at the games, Jameson was at the games. We were together when we got the news, you know, horrific and tragic. You know, my best friend, Cole Sager's in the event. It could have been him. You know, he swam over Lazar. It's like, it was a heart-wrenching, tragic thing to be a part of. It was really the response, or I should say lack of response from the decision makers, from the leadership, that started me questioning of, is this the thing I want to be hitching my wagon to? And, you know, I really try hard to operationalize our values. And our values are humility. You know, it's not about me. It's about supporting and taking care of other people. It's about making sure that it's about the team wins, and it's about helping other people. That's certainly not what we saw in the minutes, hours, days, weeks, or months following that event. Mm-hmm. Ours is you know, we can call it happiness, but really that's about low drama, low toxicity. Like, just like it doesn't have a place here. And we work really hard, to make sure that those are the vibes. Those are the things that come to life inside the walls of our gym. And it's not helpful when we're working so hard to control it, but it's coming in through the cracks because of our partners, in this case, CrossFit HQ. So I didn't want to make any rash decisions. I didn't make any quick ones. I didn't want to make them any emotionally. I was very emotional. I didn't know Lazar personally. I've certainly been in the room with him a number of times, given him high fives, but not a friend. And I was rocked by it. I was more rocked by this than I've been by people I know that have passed that I'm close with. And I think that it's because it's what this represented, which has represented almost 2 decades of my life, of this community that I cared so much about. And all this, that what I thought it stood for was kind of crumbling underneath my feet. And I recognized that even on a subconscious level. I didn't at the time, but I think that's why I was so emotional. So I didn't want to make any emotional decisions. So I was like, I'm going to decide this in the fall. I'm going to wait at least a few months, let this pass, make sure I'm not just acting reactively, and let it kind of come to life. And then in December, made the decision, spent the month talking over with my leadership team at the gym. And then right when we came back from the new year, announced it to our affiliate. And here we are.
Yeah. Jameson, would you say that is the same triggering event for you? I know you said it had started to maybe creep into the back of your head a couple years, but was what happened at the games the same sort of triggering event for you? And then second question, at what point did you and Ben start to have this conversation? Because obviously you're both running your gym separately, but through CompTrain, through the relationship you guys have developed, when did that start happening between the two of you, assuming that it did?
Yeah, that's a good question. It was actually really important to me to not have this conversation with Ben before I had 99% made the decision, because as much as I have been over the last decade kind of an apprentice to or a disciple to the CrossFit methodology and its leadership and its educational pipeline and its business pipeline, Ben has been that to me in the same capacity, whether it's through this medium or through CompTrain or through having come up and done an immersion. Like Ben has very much been at times from afar, and then obviously in the last couple of years much more closely, like mentor in that capacity. But it was important to me as kind of a younger developing leader in my community and business owner to make the decision autonomously and not go, okay, I've been following, pick a person, pick anyone in the CrossFit space. I've been following the Greg way or the Dave way or whatever over the last decade, and now I'm just going to follow the Ben way. It was important for me to make that decision myself before coming to Ben and going, hey, here's where I'm at and here's where our team's at. So we didn't really have those conversations like in development with each other until the decisions had really been made and were going to be made autonomously of anything kind of in the gym and or CompTrain ecosystem. And so that was kind of an important part of the process for me, was making a very sound, values-based, data-based decision on our own. And then obviously like the conversations with Ben were very helpful in terms of affirming those decisions that had been made. Yeah, in terms of the time frame, it is impossible to say that emotionally the event of Lazar's death at the games did not shift huge sentiments in the wrong direction towards HQ and toward leadership, toward the sport. But I remember us, we had the privilege of getting to be with a bunch of people in the community because we were kind of running activations and running workouts and such. And so we're literally running a workout with like 40 to 50 people whenever we got the news. And so you have the opportunity to steward that and to guide some of the community through that. And so, Ben shared very personally with that group of people before he headed out to connect with Cole. And then the remainder of the week, we continued classes, and every single time it just felt very necessary to emphasize not using someone else's pain as your own platform. And so just wanted to bring attention to like, hey, your kind of negative comments in the DMs, or like stay out of the comments and stay out of the DMs altogether. Like it really doesn't need your input right now. It just needs your care. And so that was kind of the approach towards like, this isn't going to drive a decision that I'm going to make out of emotional volatility right now. And so very similarly to Ben, like it was absolutely a huge shift in sentiment for me, but I would say it was a nail in the coffin. It was not the construction of the coffin. The coffin had been built, had many nails already put in it. And it was one of those like, I can't fight for this anymore, honestly. That's how I would define that event. Is for many, many years, I was fighting for someone else's thing and I was defending someone else's thing. And that event just made me go like, I'm done trying to fight for someone else's thing that they have proven time and time again they're going to steward poorly.
I want to shift gears just a little bit into not Monday morning quarterbacking, because I don't know that there's a whole lot of use to that, but I do consider the two of you certainly intentional leaders. And so I want to pick your brains a little bit as it relates to how you think about leadership. And both of you already in this conversation have used the term values or values-based decisions. Ben, you said operationalizing your values. And so I want to take those two things. I do want to explore with the both of you what could have been done differently that would have led to a different outcome, at least as best as the two of you can figure for your particular environments and contexts. So Ben, I'll start with you. If you could bring us back a year, or maybe just even to the games, and you were in the leadership position at CrossFit HQ, what would you have done differently? Can you walk us through at least some of the places that you would have went left when they went right, or you would have pressed the gas when they pressed the brake?
Well, I don't know what I would have done because no one knows what they would do until they're put in that really challenging situation.
Yep.
So what I would do is the right thing. I mean, it just sounds so cliche, but really that's not what happened. And I don't mean, I just want to be clear. People make mistakes.
Yep.
This is not necessarily about the mistake or lack of attention that was paid to safety measures, the lack of awareness of the situation, the lack of response when shit actually went down, which were all very poor. Those all can get a pass in my mind if the things following it are the right moves. But instead of the right moves, meaning what would the right thing have been? Ownership, like normal leadership stuff, right? Take massive, massive ownership. Like ownership to the point where everyone, like you just got to own up to things and take total responsibility. Like that's what leaders do, is they have the ability to respond. So it goes like these really top level leadership things. Massive responsibility, incredible levels of accountability, vulnerability, like expose your weaknesses, tell people what you did wrong, compassion, like the most human responses possible, transparency, just let everyone know what's going on at every single level. Those 4 or 5 things were completely void. None of those things came to life at all. In fact, if you were to think of this on a spectrum, most of those were on the farthest other side of the spectrum. And this is where, when I say operationalize our values, what we do is we try to make sure that we're running our business based off of the values. It is the way we make decisions. And this is, if CrossFit had those same values, they go, okay, here it is, guys. This is going to really hurt. This is going to really suck. But this is the right decision, is the hard decision. We are going to share everything. We are not going to continue with the games. We're not going to pretend that this, like, I don't want to get into the Monday morning quarterback too much. So I'm actually going to pause at that level and say, if they had acted in accordance with the normal leadership expectations that I would expect for anyone on my own team. This isn't, if this was to happen in an event that I was running and I was not there, I would want my team to operate with those levels of vulnerability, compassion, ownership, responsibility, accountability. Like, it's just really straightforward leadership 101 stuff. Instead of, hey guys, we're going to be totally transparent with our findings. The third party independent report comes back and they go, actually, no, you know what? We're not going to tell you what happened. We're going to settle out of court. Instead of getting all of the athletes together immediately and showing huge levels of compassion and vulnerability, apologizing, like just being militaristic about it and inhuman, and not giving people a space to grieve or to have their own responses and just tell people the way it's going to go down. Really inhuman. And that's when I say that we're not going to align with that. This has nothing to do with increasing affiliate fees. You know, I've gotten ridiculous value out of this for what I've been paying for the last 18 years. This is not to do with lack of or alignment with the methodology. This is a misalignment of values. This was a marriage. If this was a meaningful relationship you had with somebody else and you didn't have alignment of values, that is the reason to terminate. That is the thing that you do not try to work through.
Let's pause to say thanks to a few sponsors, and we'll be right back to the conversation. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/excellence to get 10% off your first month of online therapy. Sometimes the most powerful changes in our lives start with the right question. But asking ourselves those transformative questions isn't always easy. That's where BetterHelp's network of over 30,000 licensed therapists come in. They're experts at asking the right kinds of questions that open up new possibilities and perspectives. These professionals help you explore areas of your life you might never have considered on your own. Write your story with BetterHelp. That's better, H-E-L-P, by visiting betterhelp.com/excellence to get 10% off your first month of online therapy. We're sponsored this time around by Defender, where durability meets modern innovation. Visit LandRoverUSA.com to design your Defender today. When was the last time you truly challenged yourself? Well, since you listen to Chasing Excellence, we assume it happens regularly. And since the Defender family of vehicles was created for those who never stop pushing boundaries, that means it was created for you. Whether you choose the Agile 90, Versatile 110, or Expansive 130, you're getting a vehicle that exudes confidence and competence. Inside, you'll find thoughtful storage solutions and quality craftsmanship that prove adventure doesn't mean sacrificing comfort. Visit LandRoverUSA.com to design your Defender today. Okay, now let's get back to the show. Jameson, you had mentioned that there was something simmering in your head for probably a couple of years. I know you think about values a lot. I know you do everything you can to live by your values. Just piggybacking off of what Ben's saying to my original question, which is just how have you been thinking about leadership and values and alignment as it relates to your gym, your business, and how did that play a role in ultimately the decision that you made?
Yeah, I've been trying to think about, as I was listening to Ben, the best way to answer this that wasn't like a 15-minute monologue. And
give me a 10-minute monologue. That's
I'm really glad that Ben used the word inhuman, because being present for that event at the games, I think there's value in my response to you now actually shifting focus away from that event, because there actually are quite a few other reasons. But I would say that when you're talking about values, like what we know is that like intensity or adversity or success or conflict or crisis, like those polarizing extreme ends of things reveal character or amplify character or amplify culture. And I think that's what it did. It amplified the culture of the community, which has always been the bedrock of CrossFit, of this thing. And that's healthy. Like people just wanted to be together. Like it was palpable in the room, in the arena, if you will. Like the community like didn't really know what to do. But it was very misguided. And the best thing that people knew to do was to be together and be in support of one another. It was very human. Like the way that the community was responding to each other was very, very human. And I've said like a lot of times that I feel like the power inside the CrossFit space is that it's humans at their most like primal best. And that's not just in this concept of training, but like in the concept of connection as well. And what it felt like it amplified from a leadership culture from HQ was a disassociation from human values. Like it was so stiff and stale and rigid. And I just remember like we were standing there in a couple of the different moments that there were tributes, and I just looked at Leslie, my wife who was there, was like, I just cannot believe that they're like reading from a screen. Like, just say words like a human being, like express compassion and grief like a person. And again, like that is armchair quarterbacking. But I would say that was my personal, that's where the personal sentiment shifted for me. It's like, there needs to be a leader in this space to like steward these people through this in a human fashion, in a human way. And what it felt like it amplified is the fact that there was an opportunity for that started, like Ben said, in 2020. We could have gone that direction, and we've just slowly been going the other way, with kind of small decision after small decision and small focus after small focus inside the space. And so that's where like the sentiment for me really shifted. But I think going back to professionalizing the decision rather than personalizing the decision, there is, of course, intangible value and unmeasurable value that you're going to get out of the space. And I wholeheartedly believe that within the education pipeline, that CrossFit seminar staff and the EDU department are better than anyone in the world at training trainers right now, at providing a fitness methodology that is understandable, applicable. Like, that was the thing for me. I got my level 3. Had an opportunity to do seminar staff candidacy, which was so developmental, even for the short time that I did it. And I had about a 3.5, 4-year period where I just was like, I was really privileged to have opportunities to work inside of HQ, kind of in all 3 departments, the affiliate department, the sport department, and seminar staff, and to have that experience. And at a certain level of leadership, I met unbelievable people. I had met amazing people, great leaders. And there was a recognition that those people weren't really calling shots or making decisions. And it was a level of leadership above those that, frankly, were treating even those people a way that I had no interest in being involved in. And so I would say that it's a failure of leadership across the board for me. And I also think it's a failure of brand leadership, because as a small business in a small town, in a small community with a small team, like, I do need to consider how to lead and steward what we have here first. And we have been doing a lot of data-driven measurement around the benefit or the barrier of being a CrossFit affiliate. And for the last 18 months, I have had conversations with every person who has joined our gym. And the question that's asked is, what was your biggest hesitancy to joining? And what are you most hesitant about now? Over 85% of the people who have joined our gym in the last 18 months all checked the box of, I didn't want to come because it was a CrossFit gym. And I think that there is a deep mismanagement of the brand methodology. I don't actually have qualms with or disagree with the methodology. I have problems with the fact that I cannot do enough to overcome the perception that CrossFit has in our community. It doesn't matter what I say. It doesn't matter what we convey. It doesn't matter what we communicate outwardly. The second that people recognize it as a CrossFit gym, it actually creates barriers. And as a small business, we have finite resources and we have finite energy. And I think the shift at the games for me was a recognition that I had been expending a lot of my personal and a lot of my team's energy that is finite on fighting this perception battle that wasn't really mine to fight. I couldn't fight it enough to change people's perceptions of CrossFit because of how the brand method had been mismanaged and poorly stewarded through lots of different things. So, like, to answer the what would have to have happened differently, I think you have to reverse that like a strong decade to actually keep those dominoes from falling over. Yeah, and to Ben's point, in terms of the thing of the games, like leadership, man, like prove the value and the integrity of your leadership. And I think you get a lot more buy-in, and it doesn't shift sentiment in a different direction. But from a professional perspective, I've been expending a lot of energy fighting a battle that's not really mine to fight for a long time in our community.
And just to be clear, make sure that I understand, that perception is, and I'll pose it as a question, was that perception that the CrossFit is the CrossFit Games, and that's what kept 85% of the people who have come in 18 months? Is that the perception that you felt like you were constantly banging your head up against?
I would put it in two categories. Category one is yes, the CrossFit is the CrossFit Games. CrossFit is the sport. That's what they see online. Two, CrossFit's very niche and it's our world, so it's hard to believe that people don't know things about it. Really, the only times that CrossFit communicates messaging outside of its small sphere is when things go wrong. So people outside of CrossFit really only know of CrossFit for what it does wrong. And so there is that category of CrossFit is about elite sport specific performance. I can't do that. It's not for me. The other category is CrossFit's dangerous and I don't understand it because for better or for worse, it's not a franchise model. So affiliate owners, coaches, and gyms are not held accountable for the product that they offer in their gym. And so what I do inside of my gym is quite different than the standard that you experience in many. And I've experienced unbelievably high quality inside of affiliates, but I have also experienced, I kind of just use the metric of would I send my parents there or not? And the answer to that is almost always no. In terms of when I go and drop in and have an experience with a coach or an experience in another gym. And so there's just such little accountability to the quality of the product that I would say that's the other category is whether they experience it or they see it online. What they are experiencing and seeing isn't the actual like tried and true nature of the methodology. So I would say it's just like a mismanagement of the product and of the brand on both of those ends.
Ben, so to you, how much in your decision or leading up to this decision, how much was also that perception issue that Jameson's talking about? The CrossFit is the CrossFit Games, that depending on which gym you drop into, you get perhaps a wildly different experience. How much of that factored into the ultimate decision that you made? Or was it really what happened at the games? I couldn't get past that. I couldn't see past that. And that was what made the decision.
If the games hadn't happened, we would still be a CrossFit gym.
Got it.
Yeah, I mean, the other stuff is stuff that we've been dealing with for 15 of the 18 years.
Yep.
So it wasn't the thing that flipped over the poker table for us.
Yep.
It was, as Jameson said, which I think is great, it's your personality is how you act in peacetime. Yep. Your character is how you act in moments of crisis. This was a moment of crisis and true colors were shown. Like who's responsible for that? An athlete died. And you guys tell me, like, who do they say was responsible for that? Responsibility and accountability. Like, who was responsible for that? No one. It's just like, they're brushing, like, we just got to try to brush this under the rug. The HQ they haven't talked about it since. They're trying to get rid of it.
Yeah.
That's not leadership. That is not what I want to be a part of. I want to be a part of the organization that goes, my God, we messed up. We are so sorry. This will never happen again. Here's what went down. Here were the faults that we made. Here are the things that we're doing and the changes we're making from a personnel standpoint, to a policy standpoint, to an expectation standpoint. This is what you can expect of us going forward. This is our new operating system. This is the way we will manage ourselves going forward. We have and not this like, we're going to listen to the athletes.
Yeah.
We've been told that for a decade. We're going to listen to the athletes. Like that is just, we don't want to be listened to. We want to change. We want to know who's responsible for this. And I kept on let's wait till the fall. Hopefully someone will be brave enough there to not listen to whoever's calling the real shots, the boardroom, like the investors, whoever's really calling it, and someone's brave enough going like, guys, we're going to do this the other way. We're going to do this the scary way. We're going to do the way that's not going to be popular in terms of our investors, but will be popular in the long run in terms of our community. This is, like, I got to think of it just as Jameson said about, like, I got to take care of the people inside the walls of my gym, which we call a family. What is a family? The way we define that is it's an acronym, forget about me, I love you. What is an act of love is when you do something nice for somebody, not looking for anything in return. I feel like they're just looking for things in return. They're just trying to constantly like protect their backs. As Jameson said, it's not personal, it's professional. Like where's the humanity? Where's the personal part of this? Where's the family? Where's the culture? Where's the community? It has been like, there's been a rip in it that they are of seemingly no interest in healing.
Yeah, I feel like over the last, like really since 2020, there's been this deep desire on the community's part, or at least on my part, of like, prove me wrong. Please prove me wrong. And now it's very much a you or they are who I thought they were.
We all got into this because like every one of us fell in love with the methodology, right? Whatever you did Fran for the first time, you did Murph, you did your first CrossFit workout, and you like lay on the floor, you're like, oh my God, this is so amazing. And then really quickly, you realize how awesome the people were that did this. Like it just there was like some sort of crazy vetting system, right? That was just like, you only got through a certain number of doors if you were a certain type of person.
Yeah.
And it was like a really humble, because it's like you get humbled over and over again. And it was somebody that was really into being with other people, because it was that's the way it was. Like you work with other people, and it was about growth and betterment and not being a part of the rest of this society that we kind of said had so many different flaws. And we thought that it stood for something more than just the movements. And, 2020 shook that. 2024 rocked it.
Two-part question for both of you. I know you obviously talked to your communities about the decisions that you were making. One, were you worried about those conversations? Were you worried that you were going to bring this, hey, we're doing this, we're changing this, and you would get pushback? And what has been the response from the community, from your respective communities, in light of this decision? Did you get that pushback? Do your members care? Jameson, I'll ask you first.
Yeah. We did, the way we kind of rolled it out was we talked to some key stakeholders in the community, people who've been around for a really long time, who exhibit all of the parts of this thing that make it beautiful. The kind of people that show up on the weekends to help you clean the gym kind of people. Yep. And so we talked to them, and it was also a mixture of people who loved the sport and also people who really couldn't care less about the sport. And so we rolled it out that way and just had some one-on-ones and some personal conversations with them. And all of those went positively. There was no hesitation, and there was a lot of like, yeah, that makes sense. One of the ones that was actually the most helpful for me was with one of the guys in our gym who is a leader in his own right and kind of in his own industry, and who I've relied on for a lot of sound advice over the last 7 years. And he actually approached me before I could have the conversation with him. So the timing on that was like pretty serendipitous and really encouraging, where he just kind of approached me. He's like, hey, have you ever thought about just like doing this yourself, like without it? It just seems like it takes a lot away, maybe, or is a bit of a distraction. So we rolled it out that way. After that, I wrote 2 versions of a letter. One version I was comfortable with getting shared anywhere and everywhere with anyone. And that was mostly just kind of the practical approach to why we were making the decision we were making, and alluded a bit to just the difference in values, but didn't dive heavily into the specifics. The reason for that being is that I have met a lot of amazing people that do not fit the category of poor leadership that I would say is the reason we made this decision. And a lot of those people are in the company still, and I don't want to cause drama for those people where I don't have to, and I didn't want to like have to write a letter in which which I clarified, these are the exact people I don't mean when I say this. And so that version of the letter that went out kind of digitally and via email didn't have that part in there. And then I actually wrote another one that was much more personally around, hey, over the last 5 years, this has been my experience with CrossFit headquarters. This has been my experience behind the scenes. These are some details, and these are some specifics of some things that I have seen and I have watched happen. And I wouldn't follow these people anywhere. And knowing the community, knowing my community the way that I do, I know that they wouldn't do it either. And so that version just got printed off and left in our lobby. for people to read. And there have been some follow-ups in terms of just like more questions and further questions. Most of those questions are, this is great. What do I tell people we do? Because now I can invite people who have always said no because it's a CrossFit gym. What do I tell them we do? Those are fun conversations to have. So in terms of pushback on the actual de-affiliation, we've had none. And I think that's partially because of how we handled it, because we very much spoke to, hey, if you guys love the sport is an expression of fitness, and fitness is what we do here. And if that's a way you want to express it, I will always support you in that. So I think we preemptively solved a lot of problems with a pretty in-depth FAQs list as well with that letter, but no pushback from our people.
Let's pause to say thanks to a few sponsors, and we'll be right back to the conversation. We're brought to you by Lumen, the world's first handheld metabolic coach that measures your metabolism through your breath. Head to lumen.me/excellence to get 20% off your Lumen device today. Your metabolism is at the core of everything your body does, from energy levels to sleep quality to fitness results. With Lumen, you simply take a breath first thing in the morning, and you'll instantly know if you're burning fats or carbs. Based on your measurements, Lumen provides personalized nutrition plans tailored specifically to your body's needs. You can even track your metabolism before and after a workout or meals, getting real-time insights into how your body responds. You can learn more by visiting lumen.me/excellence and use the code excellence for 20% off your purchase of Lumen. That's lumen.me/excellence. We're brought to you by Mudwater, the coffee alternative that's revolutionizing morning routines with their blend of organic mushrooms and adaptogens. Head to mudwater.com, that's mudwtr.com/excellence. Use the code excellence for up to 43% off your order. You know what I love about Mudwater? It's become one of my go-to afternoon pick-me-ups when I need focus but don't want coffee that keeps me up at night. Instead, I get clean, sustained energy from organic ingredients like lion's manes for focus, cordyceps for natural energy, and chaga for immune support. The best part, no more lying awake at night wondering why the heck I had that late coffee. Mudwater gives me the boost I need without the jitters or sleep issues. Head to mudwater.com/excellence and grab your starter kit today. Right now, you can get an exclusive deal up to 43% off your entire order, plus free shipping and a free rechargeable frother when you use the code excellence. Keep the energy natural and refreshing all year long with Mudwater, MUDWTR, because life's too short for anything less than clean and delicious energy. Okay, now let's get back to the show. Ben, same question to you. Any trepidation in the announcement, in actually making the actual decision and telling your members there? And then what has been the feedback, if any, demonstrably different than what Jameson just walked through?
Yeah, to just answer the question directly, yes, there was trepidation. Time that you're making a big decision, I think that there should be. That's what means it's a hard decision. You know, when we were discussing with our leadership team, the conversation basically came to, if people leave because of this, they're probably not the right fit for us anyway. Mm-hmm. That was really cool that my leadership team came back to me with that. It just shares like how much they value what we're trying to create and getting the right people in here. When we announced it, I took a very similar approach to Jameson, met with a small handful of key people first, just to make sure, get their feedback. There was some good advice coming back in terms of some of the key issues that we might want to bring up. And then I did a town hall after the last class one night where I invited all the members in. It was not on remote. It was in real life. So it was at the evening after the last class. And I announced it in person to a big group of people that were there. And then the next morning, I went to every single class. So about 10 classes, starting with the 5:30 a.m. And before every single class, I announced it, let everybody know, just trying to get do it in real life with everybody. So everyone has the chance to have a real reaction. So I would announce it in class. And then after, I wouldn't coach the class. And I would go, guys, I'm going to be in the other room. We have 2 rooms. I'm going to be in the other room. If you want to talk to me about it, come and find me. And lots of people did. So I made myself available for the entire day. I just sat in the gym, not doing work, just being available for the members the entire day, having conversations, answering questions. We followed that up with a email that went to everybody because maybe somebody wasn't able to be at the town hall. Maybe they weren't there that day. So that was on a Thursday night. It was on a Friday. And then over the weekend, I sent an email to everybody so everyone would know and understand. Mm-hmm. The only pushback that we really got was, okay, then what do we do? That's
Zumba. The answer is Zumba.
It's more like, it's my question too. It's like, I identify as a CrossFitter.
Yeah.
So if I identify as a CrossFitter, then what am I now?
Yeah.
And then the other one was really just purely logistical. Which is that even the right word? Logistical.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds weird.
Yeah, it does, right? It sounds like testicle for some reason. But not for some reason, because it's very, very close. We can edit it. Don't worry, Jameson. It's fine. When the other question was very just, what does this mean for the Open? Because it's the end of January, it's the middle of January, Open's rolling around in a month. And that was actually the reason that we wanted to announce it when we did, was I didn't want to push people further down into this ecosystem, knowing what I know and how I feel. So I wanted to let people know ahead of that. And we gave people very concrete actions in terms of, you can still do it. We will have certified judges. We will not be doing it in class. You can find these set times. We'll have QR codes available for you to book times, available for coaches to be able to coach you through it. So we had kind of all of the answers lined up, which was really helpful and reassuring for the people that, as Jameson said, that want to express their fitness in that way.
Got it.
But we ended up having like 0 people. We're now, I think, 3 weeks removed from our internal announcement, and we've had 0 people leave because of it.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for sharing all that. I think that's all useful context. I want to wrap this conversation up, spending maybe 5 or 10 minutes talking to you about what, as best we can, using the two of you as avatars for gym owners and for people who, as we established at the start of this, I'll put myself in there as well. Like, we've been doing this for a very long time. Ben, you just said it, like, this has been our identity for a very long time. And maybe that changes, maybe it doesn't. I think that's an interesting question that we can explore perhaps down the road. But what I want to ask you both about is, what do you see this doing broadly for the movement that we all started doing, some of us 20 years ago, some of us 10 years ago? What can we take this to mean as it relates to the future of CrossFit, to the future of the community that we've been part of, to the future of the movement and the methodology? Have you thought about that, or did that factor into the decisions that the two of you made? Ben, and I'll put you on the hook a little bit. Like, you're a well-known person in this community, right? Like, we've been having this conversation for a long time. People are going to sit up and be like, oh, Ben's no longer an affiliate. What is this all like? Have you thought about looking forward now that the decisions have been made? Can you start to think about, well, this might happen now because of it?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know, but I can prognosticate. I can kind of give you my gut feel. And my gut feel is, what we experienced from 2012 through 2016 was amazing. Like, that was, and everyone that was there knows what I'm talking about. It was to be at the essentially the birth of this explosion of a sport that was growing exponentially, and we were so like head over heels in love with, was amazing. I don't think we're going back to that. Do I think that CrossFit's going away? No, I don't. But I don't think it's going to be the love affair that it once was. That does not weigh into my decision to do this. That's not what this was about, is like, why can't we just, crying over spilled milk, or, back in my day, it was, I think that CrossFit will stick around. I think that people will continue to be affiliates. I think people will continue to join affiliates. I think people will continue to compete in the sport of CrossFit. It's just not for me. And I think that's up for everyone to make their own decisions. And I also don't judge anybody if they stay because they didn't have my experiences. Like, I don't expect them to follow me because they didn't have my experiences. They weren't in some of the rooms that I was in. So this is a decision for me. And this is the way I run my gym, is an extension of me. You know, there's a reason that I have the values that we do, which is humble, hungry, and happy. The reason for that is because there's the one thing I want more than anything else really in the world is to build something of meaning with awesome people. And that means an awesome, like, great team players. And the way I define, and the way that I have stole it from Pat Lencioni, is define an ideal team player is someone that is humble, hungry, and happy. So the reason I share that is because this business is an extension of me. And that's the way I want to run it, as something that I'm incredibly, incredibly invested and passionate about. And I can't fake the funk. I'm not going to fake the funk. And if I don't feel passionate about what I'm doing, I'm not going to do it. So that's the reason that I made the decision for my gym to move in a different direction. But this is not a rallying cry for the community to follow suit at all. This is a chance for everyone, which I believe is to run their business as an extension of themselves. That's how you're going to be ultimately successful, is being truly authentic, being a truly authentic leader, a truly authentic business owner. And to do that, it relies a lot about, you can't separate the business from the personal. You can't do that. And that's what all these businesses try to do all the time. Yeah, and that's the best way to create an inhuman, sterile, inauthentic experience for everybody.
Yeah.
Jameson, I'm going to ask you the same question. I'm going to tag on an extra question, though, because you said something that made me think of a question I wanted to ask you guys, which is, you were talking about how the training department at HQ is perhaps, I don't even know if it's arguable at this point, like the best training department in the world at doing this kind of thing.
I'm just going to throw in, I'm going to second that as well, because I think it's important for people to, the training department is incredible. It's the best training certification. I've done a whole bunch of them. I have my CSCS. Like I have the other highest ones in the industry, and the CSCS it doesn't even compare. It's not even in the same ballpark as getting your level 4. It's you don't have to actually coach anybody to get your CSCS. There's no coaching involved in it whatsoever. The educational department that CrossFit has created is by bar none the greatest thing that's in the industry, full stop.
Yep. Okay, so I bring that up, and I'm glad you said that, Ben. I bring that up because I was talking to an affiliate owner friend of mine, and one of the first things she said when I told them I was going to talk to you guys about this is, who do I get to train or certify my future coaches? Like, there is nothing, to the point that Ben just made. Like, there really isn't anything that she can say, like, okay, show me the piece of paper where it says you got your level 2 at whatever. And at least I have a degree of confidence that I can bring you in and do the job that I need you to do. And so I just want to put that on top of the first question I asked Ben Jameson to you, which is just, have you thought about the future of this thing that you have invested quite a bit of your time, energy, and effort into? And then how, as a business owner, as a coach, have you thought about, if you've thought about it at all, how do we begin to, how will we continue to vet and train and do all these things that CrossFit HQ has done really, really well going forward?
Yes, lots of thought has gone into both of those things. And to answer the bolt-on question first, those are questions the coaches at our gym are also asking. Hey, whenever my L1 or my L2 runs out, what do I do? And I think it's important that they're adults and they can make their own decisions, first of all. But, I have my level 3 and I need to either continue CEUs to keep that, or determine that I'm not going to maintain that by the end of the year. And so, yeah, these thoughts are definitely swimming around. I think from that perspective, this is when it becomes personal and not professional for me, which is maybe a good bow on this conversation. Is I don't know if I would make this decision had the games not happened the way they happened. I don't have the luxury of knowing that, really. I assume I would, though, honestly, because to Ben's point, it's not one size fits all. And what works in a very small town in East Tennessee is different than an 18-year legacy in Natick, with Ben. And I do think that there are certain benefits that people in certain areas experience because they have CrossFit on their building, that those exact same things could be barriers in other communities. And so I don't think it's one size fits all. I don't think it's a yes or no. I think it can be multi-doxical and both things can be true at the same time. And it's your job to steward your community and your business and your team in the right direction. So I think professionally, again, not having the luxury of truly emotionally disassociating the events of the games, I still think I would make this decision to de-affiliate. Now, the tension for me is, am I going to continue to invest money and my trust in this company? Because now it's personal. Even with de-affiliating, do I want to invest more time, energy, effort, and resources into a leadership structure that I don't trust and I don't agree with, even though I totally believe in the methodology and have benefited from its learnings. So that is just to be honest, I'm wrestling with that at a personal level I know that I believe that this is right for my community. I believe this is right for my business. I believe this is right for myself. Do I spend X number of dollars on continued education inside this pipeline and maintain the level 3 and things along those lines? That's when it becomes pretty personal for me of will I give any more dollars to this organization until there is proof of change when it comes to the values that I really disagree with. So I'm wrestling with that. To your question very specifically about coaches development, I don't have the answer to that, and I don't know the answer to that widespread. I know inside of my gym that last week I started our coaches education certification. That is very specific to us. So you will go through at minimum a 3-month experience of coaches development and education here at our gym if you want to be a coach at our gym. I can solve that here personally. I don't think that that's a benefit that all gyms have. I don't think they have people with that experience and with that level of education or understanding about the methodology. So I don't know the answer to that. I know for us, the answer is we're going to create it ourselves for right now. Future things to be determined. For now, we're making it ourselves. Now, there is also a legality to that of I am going to find a certification that all of our coaches are required to hold for that component and for that purpose. And that will likely be something more along the lines of a checking of the box for legal purposes. But that checking of the box doesn't give you any confidence relating to the actual coaching ability that somebody has. So that's the answer very personally. That's more your bolt-on question. What was the main question?
Just the what does this mean, or what might this mean for the future of the movement that we've been part of for so long?
Yeah, man. I mean, similarly to Ben, I don't know. And I also just so desperately want to be a voice of reason. Clearly, Ben making this decision is going to make significantly more noise than me making this decision. And, it requires grit and integrity to make any decision that's hard, but I think it is harder for Ben than it is for me. And so there's a ripple effect there. And I trust Ben's leadership, and I'm proud to be on a team with Ben because I know he thinks about that. And I know that there's an element of this where both have no desire for this to be contentious. So I think I just exist in the space of going I would just challenge people to think for themselves rather than just adopt some level of this dogmatic thinking. and also this polarizing concept of thinking, to use a culturally relevant example, like, dude, it's not CrossFit versus High Rocks. Both can exist in the world at the same time. And there are, in fact, billions of people that are doing neither, that would benefit from doing either one. So let's just like open it up to the world and go, both are good. And also, both are expressions of fitness. Both are expressions of what we do inside of the gym, not the element, or even really at this point, the method of how we develop those things. So I think we live in a world that is post-CrossFit, man. Like, not as in CrossFit's going to die, but CrossFit has done what it has done in our world in a way that you're never going to not benefit from the work that it's done, from the minds that it's changed, from the bedrock that it has laid. And frankly, you should always honor it, respect it, tip your hat to it, even if you're not an affiliate, because it has changed the way a lot of people think about fitness, and it has changed the narrative, and that's awesome for everybody. Now we can do more, I think, with that. But yeah, I don't think CrossFit's going to die. I'm not going to encourage anyone to de-affiliate, and I'm not going to encourage anybody to not go get their level 1. It's a decision that's right for me and right for this community, and there are some logistical things that have to get figured out here. And I got to take the extreme ownership in the agency to figure that out, specific for my community. And I think that's what I hope people would do in any community and in their business, is take extreme ownership over the product you're delivering and find solutions to those things. So yeah, man, I think my hesitancy has been the fact that I don't want to build on somebody else's rubble, and I certainly don't want to create a more contentious narrative, because that's like not what the world needs. It certainly doesn't need more of that.
I agree with that. Ben, I'm going to give you the last word. Anything you want to close this conversation out with as it relates to this decision of de-affiliation?
When I made the decision, and you kind of sit on it for a while before you kind of share it with the community, there's this level of, we talked about it, trepidation, angst, how's this going to be received, and you just feel like there's going to be this level of relief once you say it. Once you say, like, it's kind of like you're dating a girl, you're not going to marry her, you're like, I'm going to break up with her, this isn't going to work, okay, I'm going to break up with her. It still takes you like 4 months to break up with her. You're like, I'm going to be so relieved when I break up with her. You break up with her and you're like, I don't feel relief at all. I actually feel sad. That's the way I feel. I don't feel the relief of like, okay, that's over. I feel sad. I feel sad that this thing I cared for so much isn't what I don't have the relationship with it that I once did, and that I thought I would. I thought we'd be together forever. I thought that this stood for something more than and different than it does, and I'm just sad. That's the feeling. If there's an emotion that I have, it is not regret. It is not relief. It is sadness. That this thing that I loved and I mean that in all the ways that love can possibly mean, that I loved, is not as much a part of my life as it was.
All right, well, that is a Debbie Downer way to end this episode, but probably also the most appropriate way. So I appreciate you both. I thank you both for the conversation, for being open to have the conversation. Jameson, thank you very much. We're going to have you back on, talk about something more fun than this. I promise. We'll have you on again soon. Thank you very much for tuning into the show. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you're listening or watching so you do not miss another episode. For more frameworks and daily practices, visit chasingexcellence.email. And don't forget to tap the link in the show notes for today's full listener guide, where we break down the key ideas and provide actionable steps to help you put them into practice. Until next time, keep building health, finding freedom, and living with your heart on fire.